The discussion is titled Sink or Swim. Sir, Mr. Growthwell himself, good morning, and how are you, sir?
Actually, I'm great. Thank you. Thank you, Swift, for that introduction. Yo.
Shapuzet, refaga pressure, moholo, moholo refaga pressure. Sometimes, I watch your podcast, I do my notes, and I'm like, how did this man get to this guest before road? So well done. We love it. And, beyond, I like the tailor-made approach. Your podcast really speaks to Matata Road. The book of life says, the governors shall come from us. In other words, we are the solution to our own problems.
Absolutely.
So big up on that. Don't stop.
No,
we love it. We're fans of you. And we need to learn to give you your flowers while we still see you. So in that regard, I celebrate you. Thank you so much.
My brother. Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting because just last week at a conference, I met with Vusi Tembekwayo.
Yes.
And, we had never met before.
Oh, wow.
And just to find out, he's also a big fan of the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never met. He said, I know this guy. And he says, wow. Then he says, man, let's keep what you're doing. This is one of the best podcasts in Africa.
No, 100%.
And just keep that edge. He says it's different, except hopefully very soon we'll have him on the podcast.
No, absolutely.
Big son of Africa.
Absolutely.
Well.
I love that podcast. And, the feedback is real. And I think that is the power of using. And what I love about what you've done is that you've really embraced the digital revolution. And now it's gone beyond the border. So fantastic. Look, we're sink or swim season, right?
Yeah.
Diversify. We've heard it all before. It's a conversation that has been had over a decade. You know what I'm saying? We're now at the fiscal crossroads. And one thing that took away when we had Elevate Africa, I loved your frame of thought. You said, one side you wear a cap of psychology, the other side you wear a cap of history. To inform your next step into the future. Just break down why you walk in between those two perspectives.
Yeah. It's interesting that I didn't do, human science is a very interesting science.
Absolutely.
Where Botswana is right now, where we are on the edge of the precipice. And talking about swim or sink, it's very appropriate now for Botswana. And what I do is I look back for it. Why do we behave the way we behave? And how do we position a narrative? Go elevate Africa. Why are we struggling to position our narrative, which results to bad results in commerce? Where Africa is actually, still the poorest continent.
Yes.
So it's very important to, and I took the listeners back to slavery.
Yes.
We had slavery.
Yes.
We had colonization. We had, one of the lady from South Africa said, we had apartheid, all those type of things. So you have to dissect. And the way we behave, I look at our parliament as an example. And I see how guys are wearing nice suits, sometimes 3-piece suit and then our heat. For me, I deduce those things.
Yeah. The nuances.
The nuances. Why are we, we have our own courts. Why do we, and I asked Professor Dingak in the podcast, why are our guys still wearing this silly sheepskin stuff when it's one thing they've already done away with? So it says a lot about the psychology. We are really into too much of cut and paste because we believe what comes from outside is better. And coming back to the economy of Botswana, part of it is really ingrained in the fact that we are trying to copycat instead of cooking things, in-house cooking of our own solutions. If you go to other countries like Singapore or Estonia, these are countries that fast-tracked. Estonia, in 25 years, they grew their economy 3 times.
Leapfrogging.
To get to high income. But now we've been struggling, and we've got more resources than Estonia, simply because of one man. It was in 1992 after the communist, after Estonia was got away from the Soviet Union, and this guy is called Masla. He was a 32-year-old history professor, and said, "My vision for Estonia is to make internet a human right issue. Simple." So in other words, just wire up this damn country, and that's exactly what they did. By 2020, the whole of Estonia was in the internet. Parliament was paperless. Now, the ripple effect was that they became one of the most educated. In education results, they became top 3 in Europe. Although, you have Germany, you have UK, you have these big countries, but Estonia just came cruising because of the leadership of this young man. And Botswana, Africa, when Swift, it's all about leadership, my man. I mean, I've researched to see ways. So those mindsets that are historic, that makes us victims of colonization. They impact on how we make our decisions, how we view our world. Because the way you view your world impacts on the decisions that you make. So the decisions that have made us very lackadaisical to enjoy the diamonds when Botswana was the most, diamonds are one of the most profitable essence in the world. 80% profitability you get from a diamond. 80%. That's unheard of. A country of 2 million people, 2 million, we go back about 40 years. So really, we set in a diamond that could transform this country into high income very fast if we got things right. But in my little view, and sorry, I'll be very blunt.
Please be honest.
I would rather buy fancy cars. I mean, there's a big halabaloo about the fancy cars. I looked at it, do we really, when there are people who still don't have a roof, should me as a politician still be, driving a black 7 Series BMW? For me, it never made any sense. I'm trying to show you where we put money in the wrong things.
But let me ask you, let's go back. And I find that to be a very interesting case study in terms of leadership. It speaks of crowdfunding. It speaks of collaboration. It speaks of a high trust economy back then. And I've always asked Bagolo Baka, what happened between then and now?
Modernization, and it is very related. It's not just what our founding fathers did. It's all going back to our principles of Ubuntu, which is really an African concept. Talking about the economy, really, I'm going to relate to that. What you just asked. The foundations of Botswana by Rre Oabona. And going back to history, let's look at Rre Oabona. Rre Oabona as the founding president, marrying a white lady, having issues with his uncle and all that. And I say that affair, Ruth Williams, actually painted a picture of the multiracialness of Botswana. So it actually built into how Botswana has the flag, black, white, white. So that did that. And then, so again, if you think about it, Botswana, from a Boto perspective, actually fairly liberal in terms of accommodative and stuff.
Yes.
So that resulted in Motolemotoka Khomo in the 70s. Okay. Then modernization came. Modernization, I'm referring here to where now, instead of listening to our own news, creating our own narrative, guys watch CNN, guys watch Muvango, guys watch Generations, our kids, it's even worse with social media where now everything is TikTok.
I call it
by
digital colonization.
Absolutely. So all those principles, my man, we just we offload things that are us. Right? We try to talk about if we had what our founding fathers did. Our founding fathers, and now our founding fathers, Botema and all those, and I write about it in the book as well. They laid the beautiful foundation where those diamonds, after discovered, they said, let's distribute. So that they had a very small office, by the way. A small office, you could walk, come along, it was a very simple, accessible man. That's Botswana. Then something really happened in terms of, individualization. This is opposite to Botswana. Remember, status, I have to be looked as somebody. Globalization. So that impacted our mindset. Money is the big thing, and money at all costs. There's nothing wrong with money if you can uplift you from poverty.
Yes.
But it gets to a stage where your life just gets driven by money. So that's why Motolemotoka Khomo will actually never happen again, because we've jumped into this bandwagon of modernization. And modernization, and one of the questions that we ask for me is, we'll talk about it's about the happiness report.
Yes.
So that leads to how people are less happy, to the mental health crisis, which is really happening. But let's go back to the economy, because I like to paint a bigger picture.
Yes, please do.
Coming back to the stream thing. Now, if you look at the global economy, we are now the IMF is predicting 4 or 5% this year and next year 2026. So, and then if you look at the emerging economies, Latin America, Africa, Asia, they're looking at 4 or 5%. Which is quite good, for emerging economies. And then if you look at India is pumping at 7%.
Yes.
India is on steroids in terms of they're catching up with China. China at some stage was
Yes.
So the context here is that Botswana is at negative for 2 years. 5% contraction since last year in terms of GDP. So we're actually out of tune with what's happening out there. There are other African countries that are performing. If you take Ethiopia, Ghana, the famous Kigali, in terms of Kagame, we are talking, guys are doing 6%. I don't know what's wrong with our neighbor, our big brother. He's doing 1%.
Yeah.
And how can I register? It's quite serious because with a 65 million economy, if they really pump it, they will impact on all of us.
And they have numbers.
They have numbers. What I'm saying is they will really uplift.
Yes.
So it's part of why we are not performing with our neighbor, also our JESA on the other side.
Okay.
So when we are at those negative, Botswana is at what I call an inflection point where big decisions, big leadership, bold things have to be made. And that's why your title, Swim or Sink, is so appropriate because really we need to dig deep. And both President Duma and his team, they're under a lot of pressure to make, and we are watching to see whether they're making the right decision. So this is the time for real leadership to show up. To show up. You talk about productivity is one of your questions. Just to give you an example. If you look at Botswana's public service in 1966, there were 2,000 people who worked in the public service.
Okay.
Guess what? It's 155,000.
Yo.
So, and if you look at all the statistics, for an economy that's efficient, what is the ratio of public service to the rest of the economy? We are way off. So it's clear. IMF have said it. Moody's have said it. All these, Moody.
Yes.
They've said it.
Yes.
Botswana needs to do something. I mean, we love the people in the public sector. I'm sure you've got uncles.
No, absolutely.
But, Mills, one of the biggest writers in economy in Africa, has written about it. A couple of years ago, Botswana's, bloated civil service is unsustainable. So, why are we still keeping it? Why are we still keeping it? Not from the private sector and the private. No, release these, take packages.
Yeah.
Release these people. Let's come and make business, baby.
We
have a very small.
But then the politician says that's political suicide.
Man, you got to that's a good point. That's what Mars in Estonia, that's what Lee Kuan Yew, you look in the long term. And I posed this question, at some of the forums to President.
Yes.
Are you prepared to say this 5 year short-termism, not the short-termism of 5 years. Are you prepared to put it aside and look at Botswana in the long term?
Choose country over politics.
That's why you got to make the painful decisions to say, if our public service is bloated, let's make, and for them, it's, you always say in politics, do it in the first year so that you can quickly recover. We can see the results before the 5 years. Then you say, okay, you got a point.
Yes.
But now they're delaying it. The more they delay, the more they're not going to do it. But I'm just picking on an example.
Absolutely.
Of pure unproductive. I'll give you another statistics which bothered me over the years. The WEF report, the World Economic Forum report, a couple of years ago, when I like looking at it to see, whether we are innovative, whether we like technology. Now, in terms of the rankings, in terms of wealth, we were ranked 43 as one of the wealthiest countries in the world. In terms of productivity, at the time, we were 64. This rank is out of about 130 countries.
Okay.
And I always say, unless Botswana addresses the 64 versus 43, in other words, we are a rich, unproductive country. I hope I try. In other words, we are top ranking on wealth because of that 80% that demand. So we look rich, we walk around, which is now hugely under threat. I wonder whether we get it, or we are really in a real dire strait at the moment. So that formula showed me we are really an unproductive society. We are not if you look at innovation indices, we are not an innovation society. So those are the things. I'll give you another example, which is very, very profound. One of the biggest revolutions right now, which is AI.
Yeah, 100%.
I think AI is going to bring so much wealth to the
and governments in the global north, as soon as 2016 changed their legislation towards AI, while on the other side of the world, it's a completely different conversation.
Yeah. Africa. If you look at the African continent, the experts say Africa is still in a nascent stage. They're still learning AI. when AI is going to create so much wealth. And Africa needs AI more than any other continent.
100%.
Well, but now come back home to Botswana. You know, if you look at, there's an Oxford Insight where they do AI readiness globally.
Yes.
And we are not even in the top 10. Remember, we are one of the richest countries in terms of GDP per capita, but we are not even in the top countries when it comes to AI in Africa. Top 10, we don't feature. Both Rwanda, both South Africa, both Morocco, they're there. We are not there. And right now, there are only 16 out of 55 African countries that got a plan of how to leverage AI. It's called strategy for what we're going to do with AI. This country, our dearest country, all the fancy things, Gaps FM, what, we are good people. We don't have an AI strategy. In other words, I mean, if you look at Ireland in 2015, they had an AI strategy. You know,
you remind me of a book I've read in terms of the geographical location of the British Empire, how it was geographically very small, but history acknowledges as one of the greatest empires. And it was from research and development. So when they used to colonize any country, the length and breadth, they would bring geologists, scientists, they would study you and your languages, etc., in order to conquer you.
Absolutely.
And that's what AI is about. You know what I'm saying? It's about understanding it as an economic weapon for the future.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've painted 3 scenarios for Botswana in terms of adopting Bonebo AI accelerated. I mean, to develop an AI strategy. Some people are saying, let them just, government should just tell us. I mean, AI with AI these days, you can do an AI strategy for a country.
Absolutely.
But our Botswana is going to take a year to bring it forward, because you need an AI strategy, then you need a policy, then you need to implement it, which can take a long time. I've got 3 scenarios for Botswana, which is just to borrow your sink and thing.
Hold that thought. Let me do this on the other side of this. If you've just joined us, welcome to the show. We're talking sink or swim season. Botswana is at the economic crossroads, and I have the absolute pleasure of speaking to Mr. Growth Well Podcast, otherwise known as Rre Oabona Kgengwenyane, who's the founder of Growth Well Podcast and Group Managing Director of InnoLead. Just having a candid and honest conversation outside of political affiliation. We're choosing country over political affiliation. What does it take to get to the true north? On the other side of this, introducing the new iPhone 17 Pro, the most powerful iPhone ever, with a brilliant 6.3-inch display, sleek aluminium unibody design, and the blazing fast A19 Pro chip. It's built for the ultimate performance. Capture every moment with all 48 megapixel rear cameras and enjoy breakthrough battery life. Get the new iPhone 17 Pro at participating retailers starting from just 25,999. For peace of mind, look for the Core Group Africa sticker. On the other side of this, we continue conversation. Good morning.
Panda, fantastic special running now. Clay stock bricks delivered in Gaborone at 1 Pula 40, based on a full load of 10,000 bricks. Panda supplies a full range of pavers, bricks, culverts, manholes, capstones, and concrete pipes. We supply anywhere in Botswana, from Gaborone or Francistown branches. Visit us at www.panda.co.bw or call our Gaborone office on 350-0838 and Francistown office on 244-2106. Panda, delivering on the development of Botswana as a citizen-owned company. Panda, we take pride in quality.
At Lehigh Academy, we don't just prepare students for examinations, we prepare them for life through our wide range of enrichment activities, skills development programs, and strong community engagement. Our students leave ready for the world beyond high school. Give your child the future they deserve. Form 1 registration is currently ongoing, and you can enroll today at Lehigh Academy, where every child is yours. Visit our website, www.lehighacademy.co.bw, or call us at 392-4333 for further information. Good morning.
Power to engage your world is on 96.0 FM.
I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. 9:54 is your time, and welcome back to today's conversation. Sink or Swim, Botswana's economic crossroads, with Mr. Growth Well Podcast himself. Just reflecting, and you said there were 3 points that you wanted to articulate. Let me let you take the floor.
Yeah. So there are three scenarios that Botswana could go towards. We call it scenario planning
Okay.
in terms of the future.
Error.
So based on where we are, right now, we could let's start with the sink. We could potentially sink,
Error.
and I've called it Tlhako Kgamelong scenario.
I like that. I like that. Error.
Tlhako Kgamelong. And Rre Swift, this is real. This is sometimes when I walk around, I see leaders, I listen to them. It's like these guys, when things have been so good, we have I think complacency and denial. I mean, this is the first time that the economy of Botswana has been in the state, so it could go worse.
So we don't have experience in the state. Yeah.
So I can't tell we're frozen. But there's a possibility that it could get worse, where this structural change in the diamond market actually just gets worse. Lab growth diamonds, and all that. So it keeps that the worst case one. Where next year,
yeah, brain drain. Yeah,
exactly. The mid one, scenario. This is where we still behave like the past. There are finance, savings, some of the interventions they have some results, but we won't go back to the glory days of Botswana, where we're pumping 4% and the diamonds are selling. So where Botswana, even the risk of dropping from to now lower middle income status, where we're actually dropping in terms of wealth. So that's the this is the one that's predicted by the Minister of Finance in terms of the likelihood where our economy is 2%, 3%, actually doesn't make the 6%, which is required for us to make 2036 high income status. Now the goody one, the beautiful one that should motivate us, is the one saying where we reach the high income economies, where in 2036 Botswana achieves the high income status as per NDP 12, as per BETP. Those intentions,
those bold visions,
that's what those are bold. So what I'm wondering, how ready are we to say we are really, really determined and committed and have the right leadership to go for the Notsilemashi and prevent dipping into Tlhako Kgamelong? And this is what you said earlier. What about benevolent dictatorship?
Yes,
and this is where the men have to separate themselves from the boys. And really, I mean, this is an opportunity for President Duma and his team to show up, And I'm saying this because it's been written plenty of times by people like Mills, where African leadership is excelled in terms of rhetoric, but they fail to really excel in terms of action on the ground, boots on the ground, turning and making sure that our people can benefit from the sources that we have. So this is where your Lim Kuan Yew, he's accused of being a benevolent leader.
Yes.
President Kagame is
Singapore,
also accused of being a benevolent, and I believe that people need to be, especially during difficult times, you need bold decisions, not popularism.
Yes.
You got to make the call on things. I'll give you an example where Africa went berserk when President Kagame decided to, maybe you are a soccer fan, this one, where he sponsored Arsenal.
I'm a big Arsenal fan.
At the time, Rwanda.
Visit Rwanda.
At the time,
it didn't make sense.
It was about $300 million for a poor country.
Rwanda
was brilliant. But he made a bold statement. He said, we will open up our economy, we will invest, we will take risks. When they took a risk, guess what? That investment,
return on
investment. Guys, rich people are flying into Rwanda. Rwanda is open up in terms of tourism. Guess what? Now apparently they are looking at NFL in the States. Until visit Rwanda in terms of tourism, in terms of opening up the economy. And what's important is that you're talking about mindset. What Kagame has done by making that bold decision. Apparently the people of Rwanda, they are one of the most enterprising people in Africa in terms of accepting foreigners, in terms of working together, collaborating. And that was a leadership type position that impacts on the mindsets of the people.
I want to ask you a juxtaposition question. Productivity on one side, you mentioned the statistics, change management on the other side. To move the needle of this mindset towards getting to, I had an interesting interview with Rre Oabona, and this is what he said. I'm going to quote him to the best that I can. He said that this new government cannot expect to win with the same civil service that failed the BDP. That's what he said. Change management in terms of, the overall example, Rwanda, etc., etc. Is this a pipe dream? Is it realistic?
Look, you can't change management is like this. You can't transform people until they see what's in it for them. It's a fundamental basic for any transformation. The people of Rwanda are benefiting economically from that bold decision that even the people of Rwanda were criticizing, or we are poor, but you are investing in Visit Rwanda. Now they are reaping the benefits. The tourism sector is booming. So when it comes to Botswana, I mean, I was talking to someone lately, they're trying to get a permit for a foreign talented person as part of their company in terms of expansion.
Yes.
And they still got rejection because our public servants are used to rejection. So, but that's what they did. And guess what Rwanda did in terms of some of these bureaucratic red tape stuff? They said, if you don't give, for instance, if you don't give someone a permit within 2 weeks, they say automatically they will have a permit. You'll correct later on and explain why.
Progressive.
But we're not going to stop somebody from having a permit or a visa simply because of your silliness or taking your bureaucratic. So those things start changing. People are by Siana to make sure that you're not the one who got the permit automatically. You don't want to be part of that. So that was incentive. So people changed. So these are things. What I'm saying is it's not easy, and people are saying change the whole civil service in terms of personnel. I said no. You can actually transform those people, apart from the fact that there are just too many. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
But you can transform them through active leadership. I have talked to principals and government when I should be, we are ready as the private sector to enterprise the people and train them in terms of how to be agile. I even suggested at a forum.
I saw that suggestion.
Take PSs and put them in the private sector. Let's have an exchange program so that they learn how to be swift, how to be agile. There's no point when the president says, let's be agile. People sound just like infotainment and dance music. They don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, it's great English.
But if they come to InnoLead or come to some other private, they see what agility is.
Performance-based,
Otherwise, the economy goes down. So there has to be some incentives. There's got to be some bold, benevolent dictatorship essence that says this will be done because I'm the leader. Trust me. A leader needs to say, trust me. I'll give you another example that transformed the country. The port in Dubai, in the early 70s. That's one of the main things that people are not aware of. That's one of the ones that made the kings of Dubai.
The sheikh,
make big decisions into Emirates, into other big projects like the tallest building and all that. It was the port. So what they did was they did some assessments. They wanted to expand the port, to make it one of the biggest deep port thing in terms of trade and all that. And the analyst said, no, it's not worthwhile. Guess what the leader said? He said, we hear you, but hey, we're doing this thing. We're doing it. Took a bold decision. Against, I'm just showing you the boldness of a leader who has to trust in his own consciousness. And I know about Botswana, you got to shaft the noise from what's the reality and say, I'm going to do. So the Maktoum in Dubai decided we're going to do this port. And they did the port, and the rest is history. That was how, in the 70s, the economic boom started to make what Dubai is. Because of that was single projects. I mean, I always say in Botswana, I'll give you an example of things that I've proposed.
Please, because we got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes left of, this conversation. So I want you to share your recommendation as Botswana, somebody who is, understands the status of the Republic of Botswana, understands the problems, and just doing it to say, Botswana, let's reflect on how we can also, including citizen participation, because sometimes, here's my frame of thought. I think also we are stuck in what I call victim mentality. And I've always wondered, what is the economic cost of a victim mentality as Botswana?
In our language of consulting, we call it's a scarcity mentality. Look, in the end, Swift, the world is actually better. The borders of the world have opened up. Trade is more open. I'm saying historically, it's really open. In other words, it's actually easier now for a country to make it big compared to the past. That's why you have countries like countries that come from nowhere, and all of a sudden they're making it big, simply because the world is a lot more open. In terms of Botswana, scarcity mentality is when you start getting scared of a foreigner lending you. it's when you start thinking you're a citizen. Protecting your citizens sometimes is because the cake is not big enough.
Yes.
For everybody.
So then
my belief is that we need to open up and become more abundant, and such that people don't care who's a foreigner, who's a white, just like Dubai.
So we say the Indians, Badira Sanane, China Kibale, and you hear that tone in a lot of
scarcity mentality. Where
okay,
we are fighting over a small cake. Botswana needs to blow up the economy. I mean, I can give you an example. The things that I propose are a bit crazy, but for me,
I like crazy.
Like right now, we are sitting on our neighbor is one of the. It's right now. It's actually number one in terms of GDP in Africa. It just overtook Nigeria again. They keep competing with which is the largest economy. Okay, now guess where the concentration of wealth is sitting in South Africa.
Yeah,
where is it sitting geographically?
I think it's on Cape Town.
Johannesburg. No, it's Johannesburg.
Okay.
Johannesburg, Pretoria, the Witwatersrand.
Okay. Yes.
In terms of
the economic hub. Yes, makes sense.
So if I was the president, I'd say, okay, now we are at 2.3 million, wara. We've got, I mean, just if you look at Gauteng in terms of economy, it's actually bigger than a lot of countries in Africa.
Yes.
So it's like, then there's a lot of economic activity. So it's like, how can we access the middle class there and the millionaires that are there? So in other words, why don't we build a railway line that goes straight from Gaborone right into
Gauteng? Yeah.
And then, fast access, trade. And then what we do is, because we are renowned for what they are founding fathers, people still see us as very nice people.
Yeah, both too, yes.
And a lot of South African companies will be very happy to relocate in Botswana. So then we excite all those manufacturing to say, look,
incentivize.
You can just be in Gaborone. We've got this huge 2,000 hectare park, smart city, do everything, do the infrastructure, not building things that are low ROI all over the country. Do things where you excite, they come here and they just export into with a fast train. And these borders, my friend, the borders bother me. Those borders bother me. Colonialization. I think at Elevate Africa, I took you guys through, 1885 when they demarcated.
Mm-hmm.
We are victims of people in 1885. So these borders, I mean, I'm saying this is real because I went through the Martins Drift border earlier this year. I went through the Lobase border. Have you seen the number of trucks? 4 kilometers.
Yeah.
So
bottlenecks on bottlenecks.
That economic activity that's untapped because of the bureaucracy. So you open up the border. We have a trade agreement with South Africa to really make it as easy as possible. So that's, for me, that can really drive the Botswana economy, because in the end, trade is about market. And the easiest market is our neighbor who's sitting there, just as an example. I've got many other examples that I can show, but I'm just giving you example of where you can open up economic activity, and all this is really, I mean, I can give you an example about, I've gone through the Kazungula border. We're supposed to have a one-stop shop, and we spend 1.5 hours just through bureaucratic stuff. I talk about it in the book, and I was really, really frustrated. I mean, you go through about 5 payments, this text, that on the Zambian side. Botswana is still well. And I see the president all hugging and saying, but guys, on the ground.
Hold that thought. Let me take some calls. Let me not keep you to myself. Gabs FM, good morning.
Dollar Mac.
There should be headphones on your...
Dollar.
Hey, get Swift.
I'm in Swift, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Bon, get remole for mom to go.
Erra.
Le nne le re fa chance ga ba imba ba bo tlhatsana alo ba dio here ne re botse. Bon, we sure ke ba go botsa a very simple question.
Hold that thought. Erra, please go ahead.
Hey, na re so se democracy go busa ka democracy. Go thata go le kae a ke ankarabe botse. Go thata go le kae mo go busa ka puso ya batho ka batho.
Thank you, sir. There's a question, democracy. I find democracy to be an interesting subject. Earlier on and they say democracy worked because our leaders had an ear to the ground. And then when we cross the 150 mark, it makes it very difficult. The history of information systems makes it very difficult to manage democracy. What's your take on democracy in today, 2025? And does it work?
I think we are we are shooting at the wrong tree. I don't think there's any problem with democracy. Countries have progressed, even
Under democracy,
became even more democratic in their constitutional setups. If you that's why if you look at some of the write-ups and what people, Africa has not been blessed with the right leadership, guys. Let's just accept it. If you look at the leaderships of Africa in terms of the map, there is what they call, you should read the book, Why Nations Fail.
Yes.
By a guy called James Robinson and Darren Hamaguglo. It's very interesting. And they actually have a lot of case studies about Africa. We've been unfortunate with leaders who are more extractive than inclusive. Extractive meaning, rent seeking, and who are there purely to see what they can get from their people, even at the expense of their people. So the political economy that they set up, political economy is about having economic policies that directly benefit the people. And in Africa, that's got nothing to do with democracy. The people have not blocked our leader. Remember, our presidents are very powerful in terms of what they can do from executing things. We even said maybe they've got too much power, but they should use the power for the right things.
Hold that thought. Let me take another call. Gabs FM, good morning. Hello? Motsadi wa ka le teng.
Everything. About he really mentioned a lot around AI, which is good. But I just feel Botswana's infrastructure is it's absolute. Let me just say it's a legacy system. So I think the fund is trying to label BPOF. I think the pension funds and the likes and the likes. They could be resourceful to Botswana because now. And we are not utilizing that money to rebuild the infrastructure of Botswana. So I think the position in Yarona it's at a good state. But we are not utilizing it, remitting the funds from other countries and the likes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Domestic capital is an important conversation to have.
Too much. I read Africa Business Week recently about how Africa is rich in terms of pension funds, especially South Africa, Botswana, apparently Botswana is one of the tops in terms of pension money. And you know what we do as Africans? Again, we can go back to 1885, we go back to colonization, we go back to slavery. But what we do is now we take this money and invest it elsewhere. We don't invest it in our own. The length of time it took to build the Kazungula border post, after 5 kilometers for many years of trucks, when our BPOP of money, our pension money is investing where? Europe. That's where we are building balance sheets of other people. So my good friend is extremely right. Why don't we take BPOP and all? AU is trying to work on this, where we get pension money across Africa.
Yes,
and
I've read that.
Invested in our local infrastructure builds,
Hold
like
that
the digital economy, as he was rightly saying.
Let me take one more caller. Gabs FM, good morning. Hello.
Good morning. Your radio station,
395 Gabs FM.
Yes, Gabs FM. What is for the online radio?
You can ask Dr. Google, but just Google Gabs FM online, sir.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, sir. No, as rightfully said. So, look, what I'm going to try and do for my valued listeners, get this man back in and have more of these conversations because we're fast running out of time. Your closing statement, what would you say to the nation if you had the floor, such as, the State of BW address? In closing, how do we navigate? Where do we start? Because, I find that we're also overwhelmed with the problem. Do we pull at education?
And we don't want to celebrate the problems.
Do we go to education and look at education? Do we look at our human capital? We have high brain drain. Sink or swim, renwa dikopi tsa metsi re leka go swima ra gutla gore wa reng health sectors collapsed. The trade union are saying no, kanye retrenchment let's consult. Where do we start in this whole conundrum of issues? And I know that, and I can appreciate that's also a difficult question for you as a thought leader, but we would like to hear from your well of wisdom.
No, I think first let's acknowledge what the government is trying to do.
Okay.
I think if you look at the BETP, we needed an economic transformation program, a strategic one, and I know government has been working on that. And the good thing is that they've actually tried to apply some science. They did the labs to try and really look at high ROI, high impact projects.
Yes.
A developing country really makes it through projects. That's like I was giving an example about Dubai,
yes,
about Singapore, those big projects that can have high impact on the economy in terms of employment, So that was a good initiative. We don't know much about it as yet because the 200 projects that have been listed, we don't know what's in there. So it's still a bit of a...
NDP's recognizes 126 projects, if I'm not mistaken.
388 billion over 5 years.
Yes.
It sounds a bit out there, but we will see.
Okay.
And this is where now painful decisions have to be made, like the decisions that we talked about, or that need to be made. If they don't execute those decisions, that things won't work. Now let's go back to the hindering factors where holistically we've got to look at. First, I'm looking at the happiness report, the state of the psychosocial setup in Botswana. I think that has to be revisited right from education system. The education system is still premised
outdated.
Archaic. It really needs a total overhaul. I don't know why we take long to do that, because education can really solve a lot of problems if we get it right, in terms of even entrepreneurship and a creativity type thing, instead of having this memory-based type training. Make education, the article that I did on LinkedIn this week is about education and fun and bringing happiness in education to make kids, because there's been a research that's shown that happier students perform better. So we got to look at it. In other words, we have to do with education our own way, in terms of because all this is all foreign stuff that we're trying to do. So our people, in my view, are a bit harmed by the modernization, because we've left it to other narratives, the Western narrative by and large. And if we don't sort out, all countries that have made it, they've made it in their own narrative.
Hold that thought.
Japan did it in their own language.
Hold that thought. On the other side of this, I'm keeping this man for longer. Let me just do this, and then on the other side of this, we'll continue conversation.
Shaka, wait. Power to engage your world is on 97.6 FM. SAA announces a special launch fair of 2,114 Pula, effective from the 4th of November from Gaborone to Johannesburg, return inclusive. Fly from Gaborone to Johannesburg with South African Airways. Enjoy more baggage, more comfort, and more connections every time you fly South African Airways. Book today and call us on 7912-7637 or go online with www.flysaa.com. Plus, you can also visit our offices on the second floor, Remore Crossing, plot 50637, Besco Hyper Gaborone, or simply talk to your favorite travel agent for more information. Fly South African Airways. T's and C's apply. Hansi. Power to engage your world is on 90.8 FM.
Okay, I've managed to sort out some of my issues. Your parting statement as we wrap up the conversation.
And just to pick up where I left, it's like a corporate. For some of you who are in corporate, if you don't sort out the culture, they say culture is strategy for breakfast. So we can come up with BTP, we can come up with these beautiful documents if culture is not right. And culture shift, I'm talking about where we're coming from, that psychosocial arrangement, if we don't sort that out, then we'll continue to struggle. So that's something that needs attention. And for me, if you're looking for solutions, it starts from how we school our people. I mean, even me reflecting how I got educated, the memory base, highly competitive instead of being collaborative, that the things I'm learning now afterwards. No. This is and even learning our own history, because we got slightly damaged because of, instead of knowing what King Sechele and Sibeli did at the Battle of Dimao.
And I like how you say king, and not Kos.
Instead of learning those things, we learn the Tsar of Russia. So those people don't realize how damaging those are. Okay. And then when it comes to the practical affair of BTP, of NDP 12, I would just like to plead with our government to say, please, productivity is king. So the issues of the public service, the issue of applying innovation. I've presented at fora where I showed if you don't invest in research and development at country level at a certain level, the country does not go forward in terms of it. And the best bet for a small country like Botswana in terms of development and accelerated development is to invest in innovation and having a national innovation system across universities, across schools, across institutions, where we have companies here that make money out of Botswana when a Swift, but they don't invest anything in innovation. You don't have to force them. You can incentivize them.
And that's the model of Silicon Valley, actually.
Exactly. You incentivize, say, this is a tax incentive, you do this, you put 1% of your profit into innovation and thinking for the country and building IP. Because if you don't have creativity and patents development, can I remember there was a time when Japan was pumping 500,000 patents a year during the 80s and 90s. Now I hope you see where the gap between us and these countries and why they've made it. And this is what Singapore. So technology, and then technology on it, we shouldn't do the traditional. Because they say when you come from behind, you have an opportunity to jump things. Like the digital, the digital economy that's been mentioned.
Yes.
That should have a 6-month program to say what are the most critical, because that will bring efficiency and also excite investors where our internet, our tariffs, all those things are conducive to get an investment.
But speak to Vision 2036. Is it nothing but a black and white document that holds no weight, no vision, no hope?
Well,
it seems like a document that is not alive within the Republic.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we risk doing the same thing as Vision 2016. Remember, we have a 20-year Vision 2016. That's now it was successful, but really it was a failure. 2016.
Yeah.
So we also risk 2036. I mean, 2036 when Swift in practical terms, it means doubling our GDP per capita. Right now, it's about $7,000 per capita. Now, to be a high-income country, it means we have to go to 13,000. So that's almost double. Now, that's for the listeners and for you to see, has this country got the capability to do that? If you ask me, and I'm really an optimist.
Yes.
But based on what you are doing right now, I'm not too convinced. So we need, really, as you said, a defined roadmap of reforms, aggressive reforms that can ensure that we get to 2016.
Rre Kgengwenyane, I could keep you all day. I think one thing I should do during festive, and I'd have to ask my partner in crime, my name is Ross, if we could just have one of these days where we host a 3-hour show together. You know what I'm saying? And just, unpack various components. I think I'd love to do it. And before you go, this is what you do on your podcast, right? You always ask your guests to recommend books.
Correct.
3 books that you would recommend to say, Botswana, come together and seek knowledge with these 3 books. Which would they be?
First of all, I'll just go back to basics. Remember, my issue is really what's in the brain. Because for me, culture and how you see the world, how you make decisions is very important. So I will plead to Botswana to go back to learn about the history of Africa. I've written a book, bibliography, Yaha Soul Plachi, for instance.
I saw that book. I actually Googled it. Yes.
It really gets It's one of Barolong philosophers. This was a guy who was a writer, a politician. He was one of those who founded the ANC.
Yes.
So he was all those things, which it brings pride. So we need to get that pride.
Nationalistic pride.
And pride grounded on our, not quoting both Trump and all those stuff, but quoting your own people. So that, I'll recommend that book. But amongst others, obviously, the book is about Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. Let's read those books again. And there's another one, Steve Biko, I forgot the title. Just to ground Botswana on who we are.
There's I Write What I Like, and then there's
that
another
one. Yes. So I like them to read more, and the young people read more about Africa. And I'm picking up there's a little renaissance around Africa that's really happened. Now, in terms of economy, should I carry on?
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of economy, I mentioned the book, James Robinson, Why Nations Fail.
Yes.
We all need to read that book. And it's why it's contextualized, because there are a lot of case studies. South Africa, they even talk about Botswana. And then the other one, which is later than, which is much later than James Robinson, Greg Mills. He wrote a book called Poor State, Rich State.
Yes, I've seen that book.
I highly recommend Botswana, which talks about why Africa, we are full of people and politicians who are good with rhetoric and very little on the ground.
Including
yes.
including your book.
Yeah.
I gotta plug you.
And please, currently, I've written a book. It's called InnoLead.
Yes.
The inner game of being an entrepreneur in Africa, where I unpack my life and the struggles of entrepreneur from a Botswana and an Africa perspective. The good thing about the book is that it's also written to change the narrative of how the world sees Africa and Botswana, because there are things we are not storytelling who we are. So I try to position that. But importantly, I believe that entrepreneurs are people that change the world. Botswana needs 200 times the levels of entrepreneurship, and that's what the book is focusing on.
That's how we wrapped up. We had the man for almost an hour.
And
Thank
the
you
book
so much.
It's available on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's Amazon Books. You can reach it out there. Otherwise, you are placing it on the local bookshops. Thanks, buddy.
He goes by the name Rre Oabona Kgengwenyane. He's the founder of Growth Through Our Podcast, Group Managing Director of InnoLead Africa. This man is widely regarded as one of Botswana's dynamic thought leaders, very informed. And, he's just a Botswana who's, voting and gunning for Botswana. And I think that's important. They say in Ukraine, the most powerful force is nationalism. It doesn't get better than nationalism. Once you are nationalistic, you can drive forward in one unison. And that's the takeaway from this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We got the Freedom Square coming your way. Good morning.
Thanks, buddy.
Botswana, elele yao, hey mama. Botswana, elele yao, hey mama. Idule monu, kalaboraro, kautana, Londoni, kalabune, kavitelani, makua, hatikam, I don't come. How you say? I don't deserve. Idule monu. Kalaboraro, Kautena, Landani, Kalabune, Kavitelani, Makua, Hatikam, I don't come. How you say? I don't deserve. Botswana, elele yao, hey mama. Botswana, elele yao, hey mama. Boy. My baron, boy, my baron, boy, my baron, delele, boy, my baron, boy, my baron, delele. Botswana, elele, hey mama. Botswana, elele, hey mama. Botswana, elele. Kidile mono, kalaboraro, kautena, Landani, kalabune, kavitelani, makua, hatikam, I don't come. How you say? I don't say. Idule monu, kalaboraro, kautena, Landani, kalabune, kavitelani, makua, hatikam, I don't come. How you say? I don't say. Botswana, elele, hey mama. Botswana, elele yao, hey mama. Elele yao, hey mama. Elele yao, hey mama.
It's Cabs FM Power to Engage. You will stumble Botswana. Lots to reflect about. And I sincerely hope that when as Botswana you're reflecting. I do know that I got a couple of WhatsApp messages. Swift, great conversation, because we should be in the same place as Dubai today. Our infrastructure is poor and constructed, and people need a little kick. Good morning, Swift, and your guest. I think again, keeping certain top civil servants who made damaging decisions during the previous administration can lead to low morale, disgruntlement among civil servants. Imagine keeping a PSP who the courts have accused her of leaking confidential information. This is wrong, and such people can't be trusted. Let me play a couple of voice notes as we introduce our next segment, which is the Freedom Square.
Good morning, Gibbs FM, and I thank you a lot, Mr. DJ, for bringing that gentleman on the radio station. I love that gentleman. I enjoy
you and me
listening to his podcast. Thanks a lot. You've already blessed my day. That guy, he speaks the truth, and we have to learn and appreciate. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Gibbs FM. Thank you, Mr. DJ.
You are very welcome. Definitely, he's one of one. Let me listen to this.
Personally, I think that one of the things that we need to really reconsider here in Bots is, the immigration policies. We need to, re-look at that. I mean, we've got people that have been here for years and years who have absolutely no intentions of ever going back to their mother countries, who have called Botswana home, who've got families here, but issues of citizenship, permits, they're just still a headache. And at the end of the day, instead of people investing here, you don't know, you end up investing back in your country in as much as you don't really want to invest there, because your whole livelihood, your whole life is here. You have no choice. But that's one thing that needs to be considered. Maybe say all those that have been here for 10 years plus, just give them citizenship, and you see the changes that will happen there.
Yeah, immigration can act as an economic weapon. On the other side of this, Kibaras just stepped into studio. We will be definitely opening your phone lines and having what is called the Freedom Square. But before that, listen up. Experience Gaborone International School's immersive open day on Saturday, the 8th of November, 2025, from 9 a.m. up until 12 noon. Explore our campus from pre-primary to high school, featuring advanced facilities and AI-supported learning. GIS blends academic excellence with social and emotional development, uniting global standards and local traditions to help every student reach their potential. Join us and experience how exciting education can be. RSVP today on www.gaboroneinternationalschool.co.bw. Gaborone International School. Achieve your aspirations.
Mr. Speaker, the State of the Nation address is more than a ceremonial occasion. It is a moment when our nation stands united to celebrate triumphs, confront obstacles, and chart a bold course for the future.
As President Duma Boko prepares to give his second State of the Nation address, the question on many Botswana's lips is, how is the government performing under the leadership of the Umbrella for Democratic Change, UDC? From healthcare to education, governance to separation of powers.
We will build a Botswana that is resilient, sustainable, and prosperous.
Join us on Gabs FM this week across all shows as we critically discuss a number of key sectors that are critical to keep Botswana moving forward. Gabs FM is committed to reporting news that is accurate, broadcast comment that is fair, and adhere to the highest standards of journalism. If you think we're not living up to this code, you can forward your complaint to the program's manager at Private Bag BO 319 Gaborone, or call us at 317-0905, or email info@gabsfm.co.bw, or to the Botswana Communications Regulatory Authority, BOCRA, at Private Bag 00495 Gaborone, or call 395-7755.
Dumela Gabs FM.
La botsa nkuta ka tsamaraking gato ke ditoro tsa go are itshweleta ka mosebe phuphomo ke dikeletso
nya o ka lebella kganyati ke kgang tsone tsa kgotlhano ya batho le sepodisi batho betso a re thuseng le ha tshela Botswana.
Freedom Square. Freedom Square.
Divorce destitute of even the slightest ounce of truth, then you make it very difficult for anybody to take you seriously, much less myself. I have a difficulty first with listening to a person who has no substance, who doesn't make sense. I find it very difficult. It's like torture. I have an even more serious problem with reading stuff that is not well written. And many of the pieces that you write in your newspapers are badly written. Even the grammar is bad. I'm telling you, I must be honest with you folks. And then everything is devoid of truth. Do you take yourself seriously as a professional? You're entitled to your opinions. In the legal profession, we don't take anybody's opinion. Before you give opinions, we test, are you an expert? Why are you entitled to state opinions? And if you claim to be an expert, we test your credential. What makes you an expert? What have you done? Why should your opinions matter? But if you're just an ordinary citizen giving us your unanchored speculations, you're entitled to fulminate. But if you want to be taken seriously and claim expertise, please lay your credentials on the table so we test them first. And if we are satisfied with your credentials, we then might listen to your opinions.
Well, the question is, Kibara, sub-editor at Gabs FM, does your opinion hold weight? You're somebody we can trust in terms of the conversation. We've got Gilbert in studio, who was part and parcel of that. Hey, Mr. G, Gilbert, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine, Brashid. How are you?
Heavy-handed tone, condescending. You were at that certain press conference. Give us an understanding of how the room felt. You know, it's not easy being criticized directly by, the CIC, the chief commander-in-chief. Gilbert.
Because before Gilbert, we went there or we were invited for an event in it's about something else.
Okay.
But then we want to know, Gilbert, because you're what poked the president to end up.
Kiba, Swift.
Yeah.
It
took you,
It took me by surprise. Helayaka, other journalists, because what the president did was say, about an update.
Yes.
The partnership in this new. The Horeneba, Babona Tusa Yan Lefat. So we the refurbishments the real Morupule A, Morupule B.
Positive things.
Yeah, positive things. We aim to be a net exporter by 2030 because of that partnership.
Yeah.
Jiggy the president then goes. Usimona go bua ka di media yana.
After
last minute
no, what because the call came straight to me. We need someone go BTV now. Same day, you ask yourself.
Because I heard him say it in Parliament in the morning or this afternoon. Some investors
we were not invited. Only the call came like 2 hours before the event. Or we asking you to come and cover the stage. But because it's a very important thing, not only we took our time, reconcile decisions another day to day to go and cover that positive event, only to come out there being abused. I think it's an abuse from the president.
I think the president, there's nothing wrong with constructive criticism, right? And the tone that he holds as a leader, Raron, I think he needs to understand that, we play an important role in this democracy. You can't do it without media. We need to look at ourselves. Maybe we're failing, but I think the tone and how you address Botswana is very important, right?
We always talk about the tone all the time. But one thing that I always say when I speak is that just single out media house that you felt they wrote something
not
that is
blanket.
Not say all the media, just like us. Every time when we talk, we always say Ministry of Health,
not everybody.
Ministry of Basic Education is silly. We never say all the ministries are failing. Why can he say this media house did this and that? This media house says not all the media.
From Kibas Rass's mouth to the office of the president. Gabs FM, good morning. Welcome to the Freedom Square.
Yes, sir.
The one and the only.
ga ele gore go na le bo leng gore o dira se leng gore ga sa tlhamalla ka ntse se mothunya ile mo edile dilo a lehatsi a bue gore kanta bitse motho tota nna ke dumela mo goreng biletsa motho o kotoko o ska tlo mo ga uta ha pele ga batho kana ga go nna yalo wa utlwa yana e nna mathusedi gore ke ibotsa gore ha ke re go bone ke le journalist ile ke bidiwa go there's a press conference. How am I going to behave or how am I going to feel ha pele ga go because nako le nako o bogale o bile wa ka re wa nyenyatsa ga nke go nna bilano o senya democracy ga o dira jalo ka re o dira gore se ka boletsa setšhaba.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
They say if you want to tell the environment is toxic, that is where passionate people keep quiet.
Yeah.
Gabs FM, good morning. Hello.
Ntate le teng.
Re teng me la
o itse gore ke eng ka re tshaba ga e dumalane le puso gompieno puso e re e gakololwe kana e thusiwe puso molemo wa yone hela gore e kgone e wa e dule mo manifestong wa yone e be tsamaya le naga hela jaanong go e gakolola nna ke le hano ke le mmake ba go gore puso a e boele mo manifestong wa yone o e duleng e ta o direla batswana ga gona ope o ka dumalanang le yone ebile ga gona ope o ka e gakolola mo manifesto se juri o kwadile le nyewe tsa ka gore e dira di sele hela.
Thank you.
I boile go manifesto sa bobedi nkeleng go ministry wa health le education go tong kgaoletswe metsi gore se mo gone ko keng mo nakong ya gompieno a go a bereko kana go berekwe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Gabs FM, welcome to the Freedom Square. Hello.
I don't think you are the proper people to judge the motive because we are galore. Can I live for 5 years because I read newspaper? Because of lies, say the radio. So you don't deserve any right because you abuse them as you vice president. That's a big lie.
No, wait. What I said.
We know the people who are doing that.
No.
Where's the tunnel from State House to the IS office in Sebile? Where is it? What? And Gabriel and the Trinyaga Ross, the Pansola style. One. Now,
no.
Why don't you want the same for you?
Can we speak? First and foremost, I did say that the president might have credibility in terms of what he's saying. We'll take consider, but this blanket approach is not right.
Exactly.
I get remember that shift out and
So democracy suits you when we can't speak to power. When power speaks to us,
brother,
it must be fair.
Power. The power is speaking back to you.
Hey,
keep your laws together.
Hey.
And also now I won't take it lying down on college. Yes, he's the president, but he's also human. So I because their perspective, Rwanda genocide started from a radio station when people call each other, and it's just from a radio station. So know your power. Know your power behind the microphone.
But you see now, but listen,
that's the question. Issue. This is why when I came, you have an opportunity to more get stuff for your but I guess now we are about views and opinions. I get go newspaper and there's no view and opinion.
Yeah, but say, with all due respect,
let me get into my point.
No. We can't. Look, I think we're not listening to each other. We can agree to disagree. Nakara Tautuna could be right, but as Kebar rightfully said. Call
You
out
could
the
be
media
right.
house. Do not generalize across the landscape.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, we need, you can't have a democracy and without credible media.
Yeah.
Our job is what is called a self-correcting mechanism. So let's agree to disagree.
In the quest to find each other. That's part of democracy. That's what democracy is all about. So I get worried when people seem to cringe, balk at the slightest disagreement and interpret it to be hostility. I thrive on disagreement. I'm a creature of disagreement. I was trained to disagree.